designated a terrorist organization by many Western nations, was founded by the paraplegic imam, dressed all in white, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Sinwar, close to Yassin, was put in charge of Hamas's brutal internal security arm, the Majd, earning himself the nickname, the Butcher of Khan Yunis.
He was one of the commanders of the military wing and especially of the unit which called Majd, which was focused on finding and executing collaborators.
In 1989, an Israeli court sentenced Sinwar to 4 life sentences for his role in killing suspected Palestinian informers and plotting to murder 2 Israeli soldiers. He spent the next 22 years in Israeli jails, including at Nafcha prison in the Negev desert.
In the years he spent inside this prison, Sinwar's ruthless reputation evolved. According to one of his interrogators, he killed fellow inmates he accused of being collaborators with Israel, and he issued orders to other Hamas leaders.
So I asked him during the interrogation, why you are not married? How come you are Arabic, you are 29? He told me, the Hamas is my wife, the Hamas is my mother, the Hamas is my father.
So these are your notes from when you were working?
Sinwar's interrogator was Micha Kubi, an officer in Israeli internal security Shin Bet, who still has some of his notes from hours of interrogation.
Look, I interrogate with Yahya Sinwar at least 150 to 180 hours. He was very tough.
And he says in those long conversations, Sinwar didn't hide his brutal methods.
He killed 12 people by his hand.
Did he almost boast to you that he killed those people? And did he even tell you?
No, I can describe how did he kill them. With machete. He preferred to kill.
Machete?
With machete, of course. That's the reason people of Gaza Strip called him, you know, the Butcher of Khan Yunis.
But that image of Sinwar isn't shared by one of his former fellow Palestinian inmates.
Did people in the prison fear him?
مش خوف بس في كمان رهبة إله.
Ismat Mansour was locked up with Sinwar for 15 years.
He speaks Hebrew very well. He loved to know everything about the Israeli army, the Israeli intelligence, the Israeli security.
He knows his enemy very well.
Yeah, very well.
And Tom, you've spent a long time reporting on Sinwar. What impact do you think that this will have specifically for Hamas's operations?
Well, I mean, look, it does matter. I mean, you cut off the head of the snake, but the organization will still go on. I mean, Hamas is not finished. There's no question about that. The Israeli Prime Minister tonight, Benjamin Netanyahu, is still saying that that is the goal, to take out Hamas, to degrade them to the point where they basically don't play a role in Gaza in the future. He's appealing to people in Gaza to give information to Israel, to get the hostages home, to abandon Hamas. I don't think there's any sign that that's going to happen in the near term. Hamas is still fighting. There's still fierce fighting up in northern Gaza. The IDF has launched a really, really big operation there. It's causing absolute misery for the civilian population in that area who are desperate for aid. So look, it could change the picture on the ground, but we don't know who's going to replace Yahya Sinwar. Israel has killed its leaders in the past. They've been replaced, and the organization has continued to be an arch enemy for the Israeli state. Linsey?
All right, Tom Sufi Burge for us, reporting from Tel Aviv once again tonight. Tom, thank you. For more now, we're joined by ABC News contributor and former Defense Department official Mick Mulroy. Mick, thank you so much for taking the time. Taking Sinwar out has been a priority of the IDF since the October 7th attack, according to Israeli officials. Is there any scenario that the U.S. may have played a role in assisting Israel with this execution?
So, Linsey, I do believe the U.S. intelligence community, the CIA specifically, has been working with the Israeli Shin Bet to try to locate Hamas leaders in Gaza and also, of course, to locate the hostages. But this really does look like it was just an opportunity by a unit that was on patrol and ran across 3 armed terrorists. It doesn't look like this was driven specifically by intelligence. It was, in fact, an accident, if you will, but it's certainly well done by that reservist unit. But it doesn't look like there was any particular intelligence component to this that led directly to Sinwar's death.
Many of the statements from the Defense Secretary and Vice President Harris to Speaker Johnson and President Biden have spoken about the opportunity for progress now that he's been killed. Is that realistic, or do you think that Hamas has only further entrenched itself in their strategy?
I do think it's realistic. Quite frankly, he was the leader, he was the operational planner, and he was, according to the National Security Council, the biggest obstacle to a ceasefire agreement. He was simply uninterested in it. And Tom's report really shows how much he did not care about the Palestinian people. After all, he's called the butcher of Han Yunis for killing Palestinians. So I think this does provide an opportunity. It depends on who replaces him. The deputy, Khalil Haya, is in Doha right now, and he's more on the political side. So I think the U.S. and potentially Israel do view this as an opportunity to try to restart ceasefire negotiations, which had effectively ended until this event, and see if they can't get somewhere without him in the way.
And that was going to be my next question. Has there been any word just yet that those ceasefire discussions have resumed?
I think we're seeing a lot of talk come out of the White House, quite frankly, talking about how this is an opportunity. Of course, we don't know who will be put in charge, who will be the actual leader of Hamas, but normally the deputy steps up to take that role. And this individual, Khalil, it has been part of the negotiations in the past, and he's on the political side. So I think if he becomes the leader of Hamas, a lot of countries, including Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, do view this as an opportunity to restart these negotiations. If Israel does too, and Hamas does too, then we might see some progress where we saw nothing progressing yesterday until this event happened.
So in just the few seconds that we have here, if you're the family member of one of those hostages, are you feeling more hopeful tonight?
I would be, yes, absolutely. I think that this shows Prime Minister Netanyahu has gotten a lot of his objectives accomplished in Gaza. The only one that really remains, of course, is the complete destruction of Hamas, which is very difficult, but primarily the recovery of these hostages. And this does give a way to start these conversations again, potentially with a Hamas that's willing to negotiate and come up with something that's acceptable to Israel.
Mick Mulroy, we thank you so much for your time and insight. New details tonight about the final hours of Liam Payne, the One Direction star who died in a fall from a balcony in Argentina. Newly released 911 calls reveal hotel workers reaching out for help out of concern for Payne's erratic behavior and fears for his life. Meanwhile, his bandmates are talking about his loss. Louis Tomlinson saying, "I lost a brother," and Zayn Malik in a post, "I will cherish all the memories I have with you." Our Trevor Alt has the latest.
Tonight, disturbing new details in the tragic death of One Direction member Liam Payne. Late yesterday, the 31-year-old pop star falling about 40 feet from his third-floor hotel room in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Paramedics pronouncing him dead at the scene. The security ministry now tells ABC News the singer jumped from the balcony, but authorities are still investigating if it was intentional. He is believed to have been alone in his hotel room, but reports say earlier the singer had been acting aggressively and erratically in the hotel lobby. A concerned hotel manager making this 911 call in Spanish requesting help.
Y necesitamos que nos envíen a alguien urgente para una habitación que tiene balcón y bueno, estamos un poco con temor de que haga algo que le ponga en riesgo su vida.
The prosecutor's office confirms these photos shared with ABC News were taken inside Payne's hotel room, appearing to show drugs and a smashed television. A preliminary autopsy report saying Payne's death was a result of multiple traumas and internal and external bleeding, adding Payne didn't seem to adopt a reflex posture to protect himself, and that he could have fallen while in a state of semi or total unconsciousness. Overnight, shocked fans gathering outside the Casa Sur Hotel. Payne had been in Argentina since the beginning of October when he attended the concert of former One Direction bandmate Niall Horan. Payne seen dancing in the crowd.
Morning, everybody.
He posted this video to Snapchat just hours before his death. Payne leaves behind a son. Tonight, his family saying, "We are heartbroken. Liam will forever live in our hearts and we'll remember him for his kind, funny, and brave soul." And for the first time, his former bandmates speaking out in a joint statement, "We're completely devastated by the news of Liam's passing. We will miss him terribly."
And Linsey, Liam Payne had previously been open about his struggles with substance abuse. The medical examiner has now requested a toxicology report. Linsey.
Trevor, thank you. A massive settlement has been reached in a sexual abuse scandal involving the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Church officials agreed to pay $880 million to more than 1,300 victims who they claim were assaulted as children by clergy members. Speaking on behalf of the Archdiocese, Archbishop Jose Gomez apologized for every incident, saying he hopes the settlement helps provide some healing for what the victims suffered. A new report by the Department of Homeland Security details what it calls, quote, systematic issues within the Secret Service. The review has found numerous security failures leading up to the assassination attempt of former President Trump at an outdoor rally in Butler, Pennsylvania in June. The special commission warns that without reform for the Secret Service, what happened in Butler, quote, can and will happen again. 3 states are launching a new push to roll back access to the abortion pill nationwide. Missouri, Kansas, and Idaho are challenging FDA regulations that ease access to pills, including dispensing by mail, claiming the drug is dangerous and costly because women end up in emergency rooms. The Supreme Court rejected an earlier version of the lawsuit, ruling the doctors and activists who brought it could not prove harm. The states hope their case will be more successful. With just 19 days now until the presidential election, former President Donald Trump stunned many during a town hall, telling a voter in the audience that January 6th was a day of love. Vice President Kamala Harris then blasted Trump, saying the country and the world saw the violence that day. Just a short time ago, Harris addressed a crowd in Wisconsin and had this to say.
Now, we here know January 6th was a tragic day for our country. It was a day of terrible violence with attacks on law enforcement. 140 law enforcement officers were injured that day. Law enforcement officers were killed that day. And what did Donald Trump say last night about January 6th? He called it, quote, a day of love. And we are all clear. The American people are exhausted with his gaslighting. Exhausted. Enough. Enough.
Tonight, the moment in that Trump town hall, what that voter asked, and the subsequent fallout. Mary Bruce reports from Wisconsin tonight.
Tonight in Battleground, Wisconsin, Vice President Kamala Harris taking aim at Donald Trump for his new comments calling January 6th a, quote, day of love.
We here know January 6th was a tragic day. It was a day of terrible violence. There were attacks on law enforcement. 140 law enforcement officers were injured. Some were killed. And what did Donald Trump say last night about January 6th? He called it a, quote, a day of love.
Trump's comments came in a Univision town hall.
Buenas noches, señor Trump.
In response to a question from a Republican voter, Ramiro Gonzalez, who told the former president he was disturbed by his actions on January 6th.
I want to give you the opportunity to try to win back my vote. Okay, your, let's say, action and maybe inaction during your presidency and the last few years sort of, was a little disturbing to me. What happened during January 6th and the fact that, you waited so long to take action while your supporters were attacking the Capitol. I'm curious how people so close to you and your administration no longer want to support you. So why would I want to support you? If you would answer these questions for me, I would really appreciate it and give you the opportunity. There's, your own vice president doesn't want to support you now.
Thank you, Ramiro. So the people that don't support, a very small portion, we have a tremendous, about 97% of the people in the administration support me. But because it's me, somebody doesn't support, they get a little publicity. The vice president, I disagree with him on what he did. I totally disagreed with him on what he did. Very importantly, you had hundreds of thousands of people come to Washington. They didn't come because of me. They came because of the election. They thought the election was a rigged election, and that's why they came. Some of those people went down to the Capitol. I said, peacefully and patriotically, nothing done wrong at all, nothing done wrong. This was a tiny percentage of the overall, which nobody sees and nobody shows. But that was a day of love from the standpoint of the millions, it's like hundreds of thousands.
Though Trump says the crowd on January 6th didn't come because of him, he was the one who told them to travel to Washington, promising, quote, "It will be wild." Tonight, that voter saying he won't be voting for Trump, quote, "because he didn't tell me the truth." And Harris not holding back.
It points out something that everyone here knows. The American people are exhausted with his gaslighting.
In the final 2.5 weeks of this campaign, Harris warning Trump is a danger to America, particularly after saying he would use the military on what he calls the enemy within. In a contentious interview with Fox News, Harris pushing back when the interviewer played a clip of Trump denying it all.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening.
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
He didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy.
And Mary Bruce joins us now from Harris's rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Mary, who's the vice president trying to appeal to, and where the campaign's headed next?
Linsey, well, look, Kamala Harris is really trying to hammer this message as we head into the final sprint that Donald Trump is a danger to democracy, and trying really to reach out to those Republicans and independents who have real doubts about backing Trump in just a few weeks. And next tomorrow, both Trump and Harris will be in the key state of Michigan as they try and shore up support in the Rust Belt, Linsey.
All right, Mary Bruce for us. Thank you, Mary. Still much more to get to here on Prime tonight. The former Canadian Olympic snowboarder accused of running a transnational drug trafficking operation and attempting to murder those who got in his way. Tonight, his whereabouts are unknown. But next, with less than 3 weeks to go, state election officials have their guards up, hoping to ferret out misinformation, disinformation, and a frequent generator of both artificial intelligence.
What exactly is going to happen? We're not sure. What are we best preparing for? Everything. Except Godzilla. We're preparing for about everything, because if Godzilla shows up, all bets are off.
Reporting from Paris on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm Tom Sufi Burridge. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Tonight, state election officials across the country are bracing for the final stretch of this divisive and unpredictable presidential campaign. Many in key battlegrounds are working overtime to prevent any dramatic disruptions that could compromise the vote. In tonight's Prime Focus, we take a closer look at what some officials say is their #1 concern: artificial intelligence. Our Devin Dwyer has that story from Phoenix.
Oh my God, we're all gonna die.
Welcome to elections, folks.
It's the quiet before the coming storm.
We're training all of our elections officials to make sure that they're familiar with some of the weapons that might be deployed against them.
No one can predict the future.
As state officials in Arizona gather to prepare for Election Day, an emerging threat is top of mind.
We already know of some campaigns that are using AI in Arizona.
For the first time, the officials who oversee voting in this battleground state are training on how to confront disruptions from artificial intelligence, or AI.
This is an AI going on right now. She's calling one of our staff members, telling us that we have to do something.
I have got multiple calls that you guys are not responding to your records requests.
Yeah, I think the more important thing under employee and staffing right now is cross-training to ensure continuity of operations.
These exercises, they walk us through those worst-case scenarios so that we can be critically thinking on our toes.
Adrian Fontes, Arizona's Democrat Secretary of State, says deepfake video and voice cloning technology pose unprecedented scenarios for November 5th.
The #1 concern we have on Election Day are some of the challenges that we have yet to face. There are some uncertainties, particularly with generative artificial intelligence and the ways that those might be used.
Experts say AI is already being used to try to disrupt how we vote.
What a bunch of malarkey. It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
An AI-generated robocall mimicking President Biden's voice was used to dissuade New Hampshire Democrats from voting in the January primary.
Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
The man behind the call was hit with a $6 million fine by the FCC and faces criminal charges. Taylor Swift said she endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris on Instagram last month, in part to refute this AI-generated deepfake, falsely showing her endorsing Donald Trump. And OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, says it shut down a secret Iranian effort using its tools to manipulate voter opinion. While the Justice Department says Russia is also using AI to feed political disinformation on social media.
The primary targets of interest are going to be in swing states, and they're going to be swing voters.
Lucas Hansen is tracking the use of AI in politics for Civ AI, a nonprofit he co-founded to educate the public about the dangers.
An even bigger one, potentially, is trying to manipulate voter turnout, which in some ways is easier than trying to get people to actually change their mind. What we can do here is generate some fake news. So I just pressed a button and...
Hansen used AI to generate a false report about me in a matter of seconds and showed us just how easy it could be for a campaign or a foreign adversary to use AI to try to suppress Election Day voting.
This tweet, which you could imagine going out on Election Day, says that there are potential shooters found near various polling locations and that election will reopen the next day, which is not a thing that happens, but for a lot of people that are perhaps less familiar with the voting process, that might be plausible. And so you could imagine this decreasing voter turnout pretty significantly.
The feds say while the risks aren't entirely new, AI is amplifying attacks on our election with greater speed and sophistication at a lower cost.
Those threats are being supercharged by advanced technologies, the most disruptive of which is artificial intelligence.
In a bulletin to state election officials, the Department of Homeland Security warns AI voice and video tools could be used to create fake election records, impersonate election staff to gain access to sensitive information, generate fake voter calls to overwhelm call centers, and more convincingly spread false information online.
What should people look for as they're consuming election information online?
So in images, at least for now, oftentimes, if you look at the hands, then there will be the wrong number of fingers, or there will be not enough appendages. For audio, a lot of times it still sounds relatively robotic.
Social media companies and U.S. intelligence agencies say they're prepared to alert voters about malicious AI deepfakes and misinformation, but they can't catch it all. More than 3 in 4 Americans believe it's likely AI will be used to affect the election outcome. And many voters worry they're not prepared to detect fake photos, video, and audio on their own.
In the long term, if you see something that seems implausible and it also makes you really, really mad, then there's a pretty good chance that that's not real. So part of it is you have to learn to listen to your gut.
Do we think that folks are going to get threatened? Yeah.
In states like Arizona, which could decide a razor-tight presidential race, the stakes are higher than ever.
Ultimately, the most important thing is letting voters know this is where you go to, where you actively go to get that official, accurate information. We want voters to go to their election officials.
As the men and women who make our elections run brace for another unpredictable year.
AI is it's the new kid on the block. What exactly is going to happen? We're not sure. What are we best preparing for? Everything. Except Godzilla, we're preparing for about everything. Because if Godzilla shows up, all bets are off.
Preparing for all case scenarios there are. Thanks to Devin Dwyer for that. Still much more to get to tonight. Coming up, the study that shows more promising signs that weight loss medications can help lower the risks of overdose. But next, in the age when anything you want is just a click away, secondhand apparel is having a feverish comeback. A look at the vintage shopping boom by the numbers. The former Olympian accused of running a multi-billion-dollar international drug ring, a possible end in sight to the IV fluid shortage, and remembering a beloved actress and dancer who was one of the last performers from the golden age of Hollywood musicals. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown.
A grand grand jury in Georgia indicted the father and son connected to the Appalachia High School shooting. The alleged shooter, 14-year-old Colt Gray, faces 55 charges, and his father, Colin Gray, faces 29 charges. Investigators say Colin Gray bought the weapon used in the shooting for his son as a Christmas gift months after he was investigated for a separate shooting threat. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed in the September 4th shooting. A former Canadian Olympic snowboarder is charged with running a major drug trafficking operation that hired hitmen to murder anyone thought to be blocking their shipments. Officials issued a federal arrest warrant for Ryan Wedding, who participated in the 2002 Olympics. Officials said the organization moved 60 tons of cocaine per year through the Americas and were also involved in multiple murders, including that of 2 parents killed in Canada this year in a case of mistaken identity. There's a $50,000 reward for information leading to Wedding's arrest and extradition. Amid a shortage of IV fluid solutions in the U.S., the Baxter manufacturing plant responsible for most of the country's IV fluid protection is working on a phased restart after being impacted by Hurricane Helene. Baxter said its North Cove site has fully restored utilities and was finalizing deep cleaning of the facility with a goal to restart production in phases by the end of the year. The Biden administration revealed on Friday that it invoked war powers from the Defense Production Act to help Baxter rebuild the facility.
The largest study of its kind showing even more promising signs that weight loss medications like Ozempic and Wegovy can help lower the risks of intoxication and overdose. The landmark research looked at over 1.3 million people, 500,000 with opioid use disorder, and more than 800,000 with alcohol use disorder, and found those taking Ozempic had a 40% lower chance of experiencing an opioid overdose. The risk of alcohol intoxication cut in half compared to those not taking the drug.
Actor and dancer Mitzi Gaynor has died. She was best known for starring as Nellie Forbush in the 1958 film South Pacific, which earned her a Golden Globe nomination.
I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair.
She appeared across film and television as well as on stage with a touring show and residencies in Las Vegas. Mitzi Gaynor was 93 years old. New York Comic-Con is officially underway. The largest comic and pop culture event on the East Coast kicked off at the Javits Center in Manhattan Thursday, with hundreds of thousands expected to attend throughout its 4 days. Comic-Con features panels from hit TV shows, movies, and comics, as well as celebrity appearances and, of course, some very creative costumes.
Demi Moore has shared an update about caring for her ex-husband Bruce Willis as he battles dementia and how she's still finding moments of beauty in their time together. Our Ariel Reshef has this story.
Demi Moore giving a candid update on caring for ex-husband Bruce Willis almost 2 years after his diagnosis with frontotemporal dementia.
The disease is what the disease is, and I think, you have to be in real deep acceptance of what that is.
Moore, who was married to the Die Hard star from 1987 to 2000 and shares 3 children and 1 grandchild with Willis, speaking openly on Sunday at the 2024 Hamptons International Film Festival.
What I, always encourage is to just meet them where they're at.
The family sharing moments on social media, announcing in 2023 that Willis has been battling frontotemporal dementia, an illness that causes a decline in cognitive function that can affect speech, language comprehension, and behavior after he was initially diagnosed with aphasia.
Bruce Willis's family, his wife, his ex-wife, his children have really done an incredible job, if you think about it, of bringing awareness to FTD. They continue to share insight through photos, through anecdotes from their visits together, just showing that he's still smiling and that they are just showing all the love that they can in the world for him.
Moore visited Willis just days ago with their granddaughter, saying time is precious.
I was there, 2 days ago with my granddaughter, and being able, to share with whatever we have for however long we have it.
Ángela Aguilar, she's the princess of the Mexican music royal family, a Grammy-nominated artist and an entrepreneur. But despite all that success, it's her marriage to Mexican music star Christian Nodal that had her making headlines over the summer. But now the 21-year-old is exclusively setting the record straight and focusing on her future. Here's ABC's Maria Villarreal.
Fresh
Fresh off her 21st birthday, Angela Aguilar has a lot to celebrate. At the close of her family tour, Aripeo Hasta Los Huesos, Aguilar sat down with us in Los Angeles to catch up.
It's been a minute.
I know.
How are you?
Good to see you.
You look amazing.
When we first met back in 2022, she was 19, in between concerts and working on new music.
We have a lot to catch up on, man.
Girl,
Stop.
I know. Just as the family was wrapping up their tour this summer, news broke of Angela's rekindled relationship with former boyfriend and singer Cristian Nodal. Nodal is a superstar in his own right, known for hit songs like Adiós Amor.
Adiós, amor, me voy de ti.
He boasts 22 million listeners on Spotify and is currently the top regional Mexican music artist. In 2018, Nodal joined the Aguilar family on tour, and then in 2020, the hitmaker released a song featuring Aguilar titled Dime Como Quieres. It's a flirty song where Nodal asks his co-singer how she would like to be loved. Fast forward to May of this year, Nodal announced his breakup with Argentinian artist and mother of his child, Casu. The pair had been together for about 18 months. By mid-June, Aguilar and Nodal let the world know they were together again, and the rumors erupted.
I think that there's been a lot of conversation about how you guys have found your way back to each other. One thing I haven't read, though, is that story in your own words.
Well, because everyone already makes up everything. Why do I have to say things? They have their own, literally, telenovelas about it.
From dramatic telenovelas with millions of hits portraying their version of the couple's relationship.
Hola. Ay, amiga, soy feliz de que tú y Tristan estén juntos. Soy fan de su relación.
To online bloggers.
Aguilar and Cristian Nodal.
All the señoras and doñas were right.
This Spanish language morning show even brought psychics on to predict the future of Aguilar's relationship, proving Angela's personal life is far from private.
When we last talked 2 years ago, we talked a lot about some of the songs that you were putting out, having to do a lot with heartbreak and love. And I feel like, right, we might have been talking a little bit about Cristian and your relationship with him previously, but we didn't go there. How about now?
It's crazy because since I got married, I've only been writing, like, heartbreak songs.
Really?
Yes. Like, I think I've written, like, 2 love songs, but, like, I'm just, like, a dolida at heart, you know? But, like, he knows I love him, so it's okay.
Were you heartbroken then when we talked 2 years ago?
You know, I think I've always been very heartbroken. I think my heart has been broken a lot since I was very, very little.
And we're not talking about just Cristian.
No, we're talking about life, girl. You know, I think when you're in the industry very, very young, you know, you have to mature really, really quickly. And you expose yourself, or for me, I exposed myself to things that, like, I should have waited a little bit to do. So my heart was constantly getting broken, not by people, but by the illusions that I had of the people that surrounding me.
Expectations.
Exactly. So, you know, of course Christian broke my heart a while ago, but now it's together again.
Then, in July, Aguilar and Nodal secretly got married, sending fans and the media into another tailspin.
What is the story? It's not the one that they're portraying. And I don't feel like right now in this point in my life, I don't really feel like I have to explain anything to anyone. I think that people are being villainized, and I think people are being badly portrayed. I think that they're not putting our characters where they should be. I don't think that they don't even know 5% of the story that they're trying to tell, but that's okay because that's what sells. And we're in an industry, and we're working. You know, when I signed up to be a singer, but I got all of this, you know? So it's part of it. The only thing that I can say is that, you know, all the parties in hand are together and united, and we're all on the same page, and no one's heart got broken. No one's, you know, we have a clear consciousness.
Angela began singing when she was 3 and is considered Mexican music royalty. Her grandparents are famed actress Flor Silvestre and singer Antonio Aguilar. And her father is multi-Grammy-winning musician Pepe Aguilar.
Months before you guys knew, we already were okay.
And by we, you mean you?
All of the parties involved.
Tristan and
all of the parties involved were okay with it. They knew what was going on. We just shared it because that's what, as public people, unfortunately, you have to do. Because it's not just your relationship, it's the whole world's relationship, you know? So that's all I can tell you. I am super respectful of my husband, and I'm super respectful of everything surrounding that. You know, we're working on something together. Like, life is so amazing right now. Just as long as I turn off my phone, I just can enjoy how amazing life is.
For now, the newlywed is sharply focused on her career and the upcoming Latin Grammys, where her album Bolero is nominated for Album of the Year against other popular female artists like Karol G and Shakira.
Well, it's crazy because I remember I was the youngest person to ever perform at the Latin Grammys when I was 15. And then now it's weird because I'm still getting older, but I'm still the youngest in this category. And it's really cool because it really shows what us women can do. It's not even about me anymore. It's about, like, those young girls that don't think they can do it, that look at me and they're like, okay, maybe I can. Because you can. And because all it takes is practice and hard work and love for what you do. Of course, I feel like my last name has really opened so many doors for me. I was able to, it wasn't a walk, it was a sprint. Like, I knew who to talk to. I always thought that I was going to be the daughter of Pepe who went to the Grammys with Pepe to win another Grammy. But I never thought it was going to be Angela going to the Grammys for Angela. And it kind of started happening.
And for those wondering when she plans on becoming a mother, that's news she says you'll be waiting a while to hear.
So I think I'm not going to be telling you years. I think I'm going to be like 6 albums or 7 albums, and then maybe I'll have.
Okay, all right. Well, you heard it here. We're going to take time. All right, good.
Album time.
I appreciate it. So people can look forward to more hit songs from her in the future. Our thanks to Angela and Maria for that conversation. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.